Hello again everyone. Now, 100 to 400mm lenses have slowly carved for themselves a relatively popular niche, if that's not an oxymoron, on the market as they touch upon the super telephoto focal lengths of a super telephoto lens, while still managing to offer a flexible zoom range, good image quality and a portable size. Canon in particular have seen historic success with models like these, so it's no wonder other manufacturers are keen to get in on the action. Here we have Sony's official offering from 2017, their FE 100 to 400mm f4.5 to 5.6 GM OSS for their full frame or APS-C mirrorless E-mount cameras. This lens was kindly lent to me by Al from Adventure Together, who's a fan of this channel. Thanks Al. Check out his YouTube channel in the description, it has some neat videos about travel photography. The lens costs $2,400 or about £2,300 here in the UK, so it's certainly a very expensive option, particularly when you consider that it now has to compete with Sigma's excellent 100 to 400mm DGDN lens, which costs less than half the price at $950. I'll talk more about the Sigma lens's competitiveness or otherwise at the end of this video. Let's start off by checking out its build quality, which is frankly second to none. Whatever else you're paying for here, you are at least getting one well-built, tough-feeling lens which is going to last you well out in the field. Its body is made of a nice combination of plastic and metal, weighing a little under 1.5 kilograms or about 3 pounds. It's a little heavy, but it does feel very tightly assembled in a nicely textured off-white finish. It's based on a metal lens mount with weather sealing, and there's sufficient space in there for the lens to be compatible with Sony's teleconverters, which are sold separately. We also get a metallic tripod mount with the lens, which is well designed, turning and twisting very precisely. We also get a large number of controls for the autofocus and image stabilization systems. The lens features its own inbuilt stabilization, rather than just relying on your camera's in-body image stabilization, which is a much more efficient way of doing things at long focal lengths, and of course it'll be useful if your camera doesn't have its own image stabilization. Here's some footage with stabilization turned off and now turned on. As you can see, once it kicks in, it helps quite a lot. This is mode 1, designed for general use. Mode 2 will stabilize only the vertical axis, which is useful if you're doing panning shots. I was able to get sharp pictures at 400mm with shutter speeds of about 1/20th of a second, so that's quite a pleasing performance. Now onto the rubberized zoom ring. It's not actually the smoothest to turn that I've ever handled, being very slightly sticky in places, although the good news is that you can tighten and loosen it very easily with a control ring just below to avoid zoom creep. The focus ring at the front is rubberized too and turns much more smoothly and easily, and it works the focus motor very responsively when turned. Some good news is that we don't see much focus breathing with this lens. It stays at 400mm whether you're focused closely or far away, without zooming in or out. The lens's autofocus motor works quickly, quietly and accurately, focusing promptly and confidently even on my rather old Sony A7R II camera. I imagine it'll work noticeably faster on a newer camera body, so that's good news too. The lens has a pretty standard 77mm filter thread size. It comes with a case and a fairly deep plastic lens hood, which is flocked on the inside to reduce reflections, and has a little window at the bottom to help you adjust any filters you might be using. Overall then, top marks here for build quality. This thing works brilliantly well and is built to last out in the field. Now then, does this thing's image quality match up to its construction? I'll be testing it on a full frame camera here, my trusty old Sony A7R II with its challenging 42 megapixel sensor. Let's start at the widest angle of 100mm and the brightest aperture of f4.5. In the middle of the image, we immediately see razor sharpness with very good contrast, and the image corners also fantastic. What a great start. Stop down to f5.6 or f8 for minuscule little improvements in sharpness. Stop down to f22 or darker to see softening due to the effects of diffraction, but still a rolling start for the lens here. Let's zoom in halfway to 250mm. Again, at the brightest aperture of f5.6, we see absolutely perfect image quality in the middle. The corners look just marginally softer here, but still very sharp. f8 and f11 look more or less the same. Let's zoom all the way into 400mm now. At f5.6, image quality in the middle is very good, although just a tiny bit softer than at wider angles. In the corners, we see a little softness emerging, but we're still getting a fairly clear image overall. Stop down to f8 for a little more sharpness in those corners, and back in the middle, image quality kicks back up to being brilliantly sharp again. Stop down to f11 and the middle looks just marginally sharper again, and the corners look excellent now. Again, when you stop down to f22 or darker, a little softness re-emerges from the effects of diffraction. Overall, this Sony lens's performance is truly excellent, even on a high-resolution, full-frame sensor. It perhaps could have been just a tiny bit sharper wide open at 400mm, but you'd have to be rather an obsessive pixel peeper to really notice. Some of you might be wondering how it compares to that much less expensive Sigma lens that I mentioned. I looked at my test results and saw that they both performed the same at 100 and 250mm, but at 400mm the Sony lens was noticeably a bit sharper than the Sigma, but not by that much. Okay, let's move on and look at distortion and vignetting on a full frame camera. Your camera will normally correct these automatically for you, but if you turn corrections off, you can see the true performance. At 100mm, we see just a negligible level of pincushion distortion being projected and a little vignetting at f4.5. Stop down to f8 to see those corners brighten up. Zoom all the way in to 400mm and that pincushion distortion strengthens a little bit, and the vignetting gets just a little worse at f5.6. Those corners do get just a little brighter at f8, but even if you stop down further than that, it does tick around a little. This lens can focus down to 98cm, getting you fantastically close to smaller subjects. Some further good news is that, even at f5.6, the lens's close-up image quality remains very good, although stop down to f8 for just a little extra resolution there. Let's see how well the lens works against bright lights now. It performs very well, actually. Either at wide angles or telephoto, any serious problems with flare only seem to show up when you force it by pointing your camera directly at a bright light source. Let's take a look at the quality of this lens's bokeh now. There is just a hint of edginess to it, but it's really no better or worse than any competing 100 to 400mm, and it generally looks smooth enough to be undistracting in virtually all situations. Overall, what a completely awesome telephoto zoom lens, one of the best I've tested. It scores 10 out of 10 in nearly every category I could test it in. It does have one serious problem in the form of its main competitor, the Sigma 100 to 400mm DG-DN-C. The Sigma lens is far less expensive, a little smaller and lighter, and has similarly excellent image quality. The advantages of the Sony lens are its slightly tougher build quality and slightly sharper image quality at 400mm. Most people, to be honest, will be just as satisfied with a much less expensive Sigma lens, but those who are willing to give up its good value for money and lightweight in favour of an edge of better quality, then the Sony lens will make you pretty happy indeed, and it does still come highly recommended. Now, I want to tell you a bit of exciting news that I have about my Patreon page. Each month, for my Patreon supporters of just $3 a month or more, I'll be uploading a fun little video of exclusive content as a way to say thank you, and those videos will cover all kinds of things. There'll be behind the scenes videos of how I test camera lenses, the lenses I recommend for various different kinds of photography, and also video location tours of some of my favourite shooting locations, as well as landscape photography tips that I've picked up from them. There'll be other videos about unusual shooting experiences I've had, like guerrilla filmmaking in Turkey and my tips for wedding photography. And finally, just for fun, there'll also be some totally random, non-photography related videos about some of the craziest experiences I've had in life, from teaching English in South Korea to trying to manage a 24-hour pizza restaurant, and the craziest experiences I've had taking weddings as a vicar, including the time I had to lead all the music on my guitar in a music group while simultaneously being the official wedding photographer. My wife even suggested a question and answer video for her about what it's like to be married to me and having a camera in your face all the time. And I'm open to suggestions too. What crazy little video would you like to see? Well, these videos will stay exclusive to my Patreon supporters for at least 2 years, and some of them will remain exclusive forever. In fact, there are videos over there right now waiting for you. So, if you found these review videos helpful and you want to help to make them keep on happening, or just to say thank you, as well as catching some fun little side videos, then head on over to Patreon now. There's a link in the description below. I really appreciate the support from you all. It really makes a big difference. Take care now, and God bless.